Europe project, CATALYSE, from health to food to the environment, microbes have a role, and we highlight and celebrate that on International Microorganisms Day on the 17th of September each year. CATALYSE partners take this as an opportunity to organize an event during this period focusing on food safety in regard to microbiology and innovations. This webinar brings together industry, academia, and public authorities to discuss on critical food safety issues and priorities. This webinar will be recorded to reach out to more and more stakeholders throughout our social media platforms. If you have an objection, please do not hesitate to leave a message on the Zoom chats. During the webinar, we will be hosting an interactive Q&A session with QR codes visible to scan and answer questions. For this purpose, we request you to keep your phones handy and enthusiastically participate on these anonymous polls. Before beginning, we would like to present to you the objective of today's webinar. Why are we gathered here? Is it to present you to CATALYSE? Some may ask why, and it is because CATALYSE is you, the stakeholders in the community of food safety, which involves academia, industry representatives, public authorities, policymakers, as well as the civil society. We are here to listen to your needs and priorities in the field of food safety innovations, understand how we would like to receive information, educational resources, and benefit from CATALYSE itself. This webinar is just the beginning of a very long journey that we would like all of you to be a part of. Today's agenda comprises of talks and interactions with experts from the academic part, industry representatives, and public authorities, with an informative session about the project CATALYSE. Before we begin, a brief introduction about me. My name is Ruchi Shah, Scientific Project Manager at EURL Europe. I have a background in food science and technology within the food industry in bioprocessing of ingredients and microbial shelf life management. EURL Europe currently leads the work package revolving around the stakeholder engagements and understanding the needs of our stakeholders that include each one of you. I will be your moderator for today. Our first speaker for this afternoon is Dr. François Bouffechon. François holds a Master of Science in General Microbiology from Pasteur Institute, Paris, a PhD from Università Cattolica del Sucro Quero, Italy. After 15 years for working in major dairy businesses like Nestlé, Danone, Savassia, and confectionery companies like Barry Callebaut, he works since 2017 as Principal Consultant for Food Safety Microbiology Hygiene, and since 2022 as Scientific Collaborator in this task at Università Cattolica del Sucro Quero, Italy. François is Delegate of France at the International Dairy Federation since 2010. He is a member of the Standing Committees on Methods for Dairy Microbiology and on Microbiological Hygiene (SCMH). He is the elected chair of the SCMH since 2018. He represents IDF in different ISO TC34, SC9, and SC5 working groups and Codex Alimentarius committees. We are honored to have him represent CATALYSE today on behalf of the project coordinators, UCSC Italy. François, the floor is yours.
Okay, grazie mille. So I will share. As you can, thank you for the introduction, Ruchi. The goal today is to present you briefly what is the project CATALYSE. And also to encourage you, as Ruchi mentioned, to join our community. So I think we are all convinced about the relevance of food safety. What's important to have in mind is that it's a huge burden in terms of life lost, life years lost, but also in terms of productivity for the global and the global concern. And as such, there are many focus on various scale on food safety. It's important to know that food safety as such is defined by the Codex Alimentarius, also by ISO standards. And at the European level, it's a huge focus as well because it's a guarantee of stability of the member states. The issue that we have is that there are a lot of barriers that impede knowledge sharing for food system actors when it comes to food safety. One of the major issues, the lack of collaboration, we work of silo. There is a lack of awareness. You cannot know everything what's happening. And then there are some hurdles which are more complicated, like the cost. It's important to have in mind the return of investment, which is not something people have always in mind when it comes to food safety. There is also regulation. You cannot do everything you want with food. There are many new players joining the food industry for different new food sources or new food types, and there are always very surprises how food is regulated. And the last thing that we have also for many players at the shop floor level is resistance to change. And resistance to change comes from misunderstanding, lack of education. So there is a lot of training and education to do so. As such, we believe that there is a need to have a more concerted and interdisciplinary effort between industry, regulators, and researchers. And that's precisely the goal of CATALYSE. CATALYSE, as such, it's the coordinated supported actions funded by Horizon Project for 3 years, since earlier this year until late 2026. We have 17 partners representing different actors of the food system, research and academia, industry associations, and national regulatory bodies, over 13 countries. But of course, we are more than happy to welcome new stakeholders and new country within the consortium. So these are the different members. As you can see, some industry members represented by EFAB, by Food Drinks Europe or Flanders Food, or ANIA for France. We also have a lot of different academia and also authorities like the Finnish Food Authorities or ANSES. The ambition of CATALYSE is to accelerate the update of knowledge and innovative solutions that promote food safety by the end user, which means gathering the innovators, the users, which would be the food industry, and also communicating with regulatory bodies what's going on and to get their approval for this new solution. And as such, we really need to support startup and SMEs with promising new innovations, which would be new testing methods, new technologies, or different type of solutions to improve food safety. Like, for example, there is presently a huge focus of what is called Food Industry 4.0, with the use of artificial intelligence to make more of all the data that we generate within the food system. So we will develop a platform to facilitate the dissemination, application, and utilization of this new knowledge. And as you can see, there is it's sort of an update of the naming wheel with the PDCA. We start from the research, the community of practice, which make the filtration and decide what should be scaled up within the food chain. And then once we define something new, it's important to have education and training, and also go back to the research and explain where are the fields where innovation will be much appreciated by the end users. As working model, we work on 4 bases: collecting, which means, and that's the work package which La Cattolica is in charge of with my colleague Daniela Bassi and Maya Agustina Sarkis. And it's pretty complicated because we need to define in all the data available which one makes sense and which one do not, and how we should further work on different topics. Then it's important to translate from a theoretical knowledge into practical policies. People always have ideas, not everyone does something out of these ideas. This is where at the CATALYSE we want to try to bring the expertise of all the different members in order to translate theory into application. Then it will be important to facilitate this implementation of innovation with a network platform of stakeholders, and to share information and to see from what is proposed by the innovators and what is needed by the food business operators, and how we can make a liaison between these two worlds. And last point is to educate, and really making sure that we all understand which are the values and limits of new innovation models and how they could be implemented within the food chain. We try to be very European-wide in terms of coverage, working, as I said, with authorities, academia, industry, and also society. And the expected result from the project is first to what we are presently working on is a prioritized list with needs from the end users, stakeholders. What do we need in order to make our food systems safer, which are the topics in which we are waiting for new innovations. Based on these needs of end user is to see which will be the high potential innovations available, because it's good to have dreams, but it's better to have concrete facts to move forward. Based on what we will see in terms of potential innovation topics will be to work on a knowledge database where we can find treated actions which will be more explained and translated in something more practical. We are going to work with a community of practice, which will be organized by University Católica of Porto. And once we have the needs, the solutions, and the community, it's important to work on high quality education program to train everyone. And then will be based on this education program to have a better connection between the end users and innovators. The ultimate goal, which is the goal that we have been requested by Horizon Europe, is to have an improved uptake of new innovations in food safety. There are a lot of innovations going on, but they most of them stay at very low technical research level. Most of these startups do not survive what we call the valley of death. We hope that CATALYSE will be a good boost in order to help innovations go into practical life. As being CATALYSE members, we offer you not free t-shirts, it's under discussions, but at least advantage of being members with the networking, knowledge sharing. Also, all the work that will be done to identify new innovative solutions, it's something that will be a faster way for you to have access to this information. We are building access to filtered resources with a knowledge database. And based on this knowledge database, will be also training opportunity and sharing space for further collaboration. So we really believe that it's a win-win approach where everybody can find his own interest, but also bringing his needs and his willingness to improve food safety of the European food system. So if you're interested to join the community of practice, that's the first QR code of many QR codes today. We need to be adapted to millennials. And we, by anticipation, we really thank you for your collaboration. You can find more information from CATALYSE on the website. You can follow us on LinkedIn, where we have a web page. And if today gives you a good sense and you appreciate the work that CATALYSE could be done, this is a list of different conferences where we will be present in the next weeks, but there are more to come already for next year. And voila, finishing on time, not to being too late. I think it's surprising for a French, but sometimes we can do this.
Thank you so much, Francois. Okay. I will share my screen again. Here we go. So moving on to our first interactions, which will be led by me, we will be hosting an interactive Q&A session with QR codes visible to scan and answer the questions. For this purpose, we request you to keep your phones around you and please participate on these anonymous polls. Why are we doing this? As Francois already explained, that we are right now collecting needs, we are collecting information, understanding what the stakeholders, which is all of you, need from food safety innovations and how we could translate that to create an active community of practice. That is why we are here to request information and inputs from each one of you. If you see a QR code right in front of you right now, please scan this QR code and you will see a screen popping up with Mentimeter as the platform. I will wait for 30 seconds before moving on to the next. I see that a lot of people are already engaging. A reminder, this is going to be an anonymous poll. Please feel free, open questions as well, and however you prefer to answer them. That is great. Then Moving on to the first question. This is a poll that you need to answer, which is the most concerned food safety topic for your experiences. So which food safety topic in your experience would be the most concerned? You will have to, you can only answer one from each of these options. The first is pathogen control. The second will be understanding food safety with stakeholders. Then we have farm to fork risks. Then we have achieving clean production, new trends and its risks, new technologies in food safety and innovations. You can only choose one. Please let us know which is the highest concern of food safety in today's time. In your experiences, as a stakeholder, what would you suggest, and which topic is the most important that CATALYSE could actually combat? Well, we have our answers. The top one priority and the concern is pathogen control. The second one falls as new trends and its risks. We have a tie between farm to fork risks and achieving clean production, and the least concerns are the understanding of food safety and new technologies in food safety innovations. Moving on to the next question. Again, there is a QR code, the same QR code as previously shown. It's just if you missed it before. This question is an open-ended question. You can write your response and submit it on the screen. So, what are the main concerns in food safety in your experiences? What are the main concerns apart from or inclusive of the previous question? We can go for an open answer. We can write a complete sentence. It is really up to as a stakeholder. We are here to gather information and we are here to listen to your needs. This is about the stakeholders itself. We have 10 responses. You can give different responses at the same time. This information will be gathered and taken up as an idea, as a format, what we will use to create the chapters and the links and informative guidelines for the community of practice. The people who are in the as stakeholders joining us in the community of practice will be accessing information regarding these topics. Please feel free as an open question. We already have 20 responses. This is already good. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next question. It is again an interactive poll. Which specific innovations do you see as most facilitating for addressing current food safety concerns? Which specific innovations do you see as the most facilitating from the below given options for addressing current food safety concerns? Upcycling food waste, new tech for risk prevention, technology in monitoring microorganisms, new cleaning procedures, identify sources of contamination, AI tools, predictive models. Please do not forget to press the submit button for your answers to be registered on the screen. These are specific innovations. Which one of them do you see as most facilitating that addresses the current food safety concerns? All of them are already an eliminated data from previous surveys that we have done. Initially, we had 20 of such innovations as a list, and we came up with these 7 of other innovations that were the top most concerned list, that is the specific innovations that are helping to facilitation. We are again refining the data for finalizing the community of practice. That is why you see a much more advanced step. Out of 20, we are now choosing out of 7, and we will be taking up minimum 3 out of here. So we do have the highest score for identifying sources of contamination as innovations that can be more and more facilitating the food safety concerns. Then we have technology in monitoring microorganisms. And then we have predictive models as something that has also come up in the previous studies and analysis from CATALYSE as well. Thank you very much for your support. I will move on to the last question of the session, and which is, as a professional in the food sector, what skills and knowledge do you consider essential? The reason we have this question here is to create knowledge-based database for the community of practice that is accessible to all and every stakeholder that is a part of the community of practice. We are giving more and more databases so that professionals in the food sector can use these databases as a guideline to really create good practices in food safety. So as a professional in the food sector, what skills and knowledge do you consider essential? It's again an open question. You can write as long replies as you prefer. We have 12 responses. We aim to reach at least 20 to move ahead. It's an open question. Please feel free. On the horizon of the answers, you can be free as much as you prefer. Thank you. Thank you so much for your support. We wait for another 30 seconds if we have more replies coming up. That is great. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. We have still replies coming up. I see a comment for you, Francois.
That wasn't me.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your kind answers. Very well. I will be posting the results online with the help of FOST, our partners in communication. We will be posting it with LinkedIn and Twitter as well, and hopefully we can achieve more replies in the coming days as well. Thank you so much. I will be moving on with the presentation from here on. Our next speaker, Michael Erkes, a trained butcher and food engineer. After various responsibilities in product management, application, and sales in the Danish biotech company Christian Hansen, he is right now heading the business activities for meat and prepared foods in Europe for Novesis. Novesis, founded in January 2024 by the merger of Christian Hansen and Novozymes. Novesis became the world's leading provider of biosolutions, microbial cultures, enzymes, and functional proteins. Michael is here with us today to speak on the time for biosolutions is now. This is an interactive talk session, and if you have questions, please do not hesitate to leave them on the chat or directly raise your hand to interact with Michael. The floor is all yours, Michael.
Ruchi, thank you very much. And also thanks a lot for the invitation to this webinar linked to the International Microorganism Day, and for giving me the opportunity to talk about biosolutions, how to catalyze scientific innovation into food safety action. This is what it's all about today, right? And then also with a little focus on our regulatory frameworks. Yeah, you have introduced me already, Ruchi. Thanks a lot for that. I'm heading the business activities for meat and prepared foods in Europe at Novesis. And as Ruchi mentioned, Novesis is a quite young company, as we have been just founded only 8 months ago by the merger of two Danish companies with a long history and a track record. Novozymes with almost 100 years of experience in the field of enzymes, and Christian Hansen with 150 years of expertise in microbial food cultures. In this way, Novozymes and Christian Hansen have joined their forces to unlock the vast innovation potential of biosolutions to tackle the challenges our world faces, because, as the title of my presentation indicates, the time for biosolutions is now. So what is biosolutions, or what are biosolutions? So biosolutions we define as microorganisms, enzymes, functional proteins, and these are actually our planet's tiniest yet mightiest agents of change, as we tend to say. And you all know that useful microorganisms convert food, they transform food, and at the same time, they also outcompete harmful bacteria. And such processes have always been used empirically to make our food more tasty, to make our food more durable and more safe. And through the scientific progress and also through improved analytical methods, we are today in a position to use these well-proven biological mechanisms even more specifically and in a more targeted way. And the power of good bacteria offers a variety of approaches to increase food safety, to reduce food waste, or to produce more using less resources. And this way, biosolutions help addressing many of our present daily challenges towards a more sustainable, resilient, and not at least efficient food system, all while using nature's own resources. And I can see there's a question, and I have no presentation, no slides, so it's just an oral speech. I hope that's okay. Yeah, and coming back on the global demand for biosolutions, because actually this has never been bigger than today, because transformative biosolutions improve the way we all produce, consume, and live for healthier lives, but also for a healthier planet. And biosolutions help transforming our agricultural systems, for instance, by replacing fossil-based substances, by increasing resource efficiency, and also by supporting the shift to alternative protein sources. And at Novesis, we see enormous potential for further innovation and for further transformative solutions. However, already now, biosolutions are changing the way we all produce, consume, and live. In particular, the ancient and well-known technology of fermentation offers a big variety of approaches to reduce both feed and food losses and waste, and thus help to address many aspects such as resource efficiency and also carbon dioxide footprint, to name just a few examples. And basically, this is nothing new, because the mechanisms of fermentation have been used ever since to make food more tasty, more durable, and more safe. Because finally, it is good bacteria which turns milk into yogurt or cheese. And yogurt and cheese is, of course, much more stable than the initial raw material it is made of. Finally, it is good bacteria which transform a cabbage into sauerkraut that is rich in vitamins. And finally, it is good bacteria which converts raw minced meat into a delicious and shelf-stable salami. And these are deeply organic, complex, and at the same time very creative processes. And therefore, we also talk about the art of fermentation, referring to this wonderful book here written by Sandor Katz. And the basic principle behind this, it is beneficial, it is good bacteria, as I mentioned before, that transform food and which outcompete harmful bacteria. And this can be spoilage bacteria, this can be pathogenic bacteria, and this way we can either reduce food waste or increase food safety. And in former times, this knowledge was gained and shared on a purely empiric way. What is different today, and especially given the scientific progress and the new analytical methods I mentioned before, we have, of course, a much deeper understanding of these mechanisms, and therefore we are able to use them in a much broader and a more targeted manner. And this way, we can reduce food waste, we can improve food safety, as I mentioned before, but also increase productivity by producing more using less resources. We can support a better recyclability of plastic packagings, for instance, or we can make plant-based meat alternatives more tasty, again, to name just a few examples. However, there's one topic I would like to address today that is slowing us down on this journey, and that is actually the regulatory frameworks. In many of these cases, solutions, biosolutions are ready, but regulation is not. And bio-based solutions such as food cultures have a decades-long history of safe use within a broad variety of food applications all around the world. Food applications in which they occur naturally and in which they form an integral component of the natural microbial ecosystem of perishable foods, all while influencing food quality and food characteristics by multiple and inseparable features. And despite these facts, it is now being discussed on EU level, to give one example, to regulate some food cultures in the same way as additives. So let me just give a bit more concrete example on this one. So you can see here this pouch. This is one of our food cultures, which is called BLC48. It contains a lactic acid bacteria, namely Lactobacillus covatus, a strain which has been used since decades in various food applications all around the world. Like, for example, in this product here, I hope you can see it in the camera. It's a salami product, which is intended for ready to eat and which is very common here in Germany, and which, by the way, is stored at ambient temperatures and thus outside the cooling shelves. And this is not at least due to the performance and due to the activity of the applied food culture. In effect, that is validated, that is well documented by customer-specific challenge or durability tests under conditions that mimic a realistic product life cycle, by the way. And in this case, we are subject to the EU General Food Law. So the product safety is ensured. The food culture is considered as a characteristic food ingredient. And it is also labeled transparently on the list of ingredients. You can't see it here, but in Germany it is labeled as a Reifekultur. In France, you would say a ferment or food culture in English. So far, so good. Now, if we use the identical culture, so this pouch, and add it instead of this salami product into such a smoked salmon product, or if we add it into such a plant-based food product here, for instance, in order to improve food safety by inhibiting Listeria monocytogenes or to reduce food waste by controlling the microbial ecosystem, then it is actually under discussion whether these applications should fall under the scope of the food additive regulation. And no need to say that this would lead to a significant hindrance for the road to market, the development, and also the market launch of such bio-based concepts, as well as to disproportionate bureaucracy, as well as complex and time-consuming approval procedures. And in the worst case, food producers might be forced to withdraw such products from the market, a scenario that we already have been faced with in the Netherlands a couple of years ago. However, Denmark has taken another direction. Denmark has actually introduced an approval procedure for food cultures back in 1973, more than 50 years ago. And there was not one single application rejected during that time, after which the mandatory approval process was lifted in 2011. And for good reasons, because Denmark has finally abolished this approval process for food cultures, as food cultures are already now adequately regulated by the European General Food Law. And it also has been considered as disproportionate to require a pre-market approval for food cultures that have been used for fermentation for a very long time inside the European Union. And this position is also, by the way, supported by the EU Fit for Future platform, a Commission expert panel, and also by the LCHG, which is a German Food Chemical Society, which also includes members of the German federal states' food monitoring bodies. So to sum up, we are not the only ones who advocate that all food cultures should continue not to be subjected to the additive regulation. Nevertheless, the discussion on EU level whether certain food cultures should be classified as additives or not is pending since more than 20 years now, leading to different interpretations and different execution by the member states. And that's one of our biggest challenges. And by that, of course, causing legal uncertainties and also disproportionate consequences, as I mentioned before. And this is just one example of many others I could have brought here, underlining the fact that we need a more pragmatic approach to these challenges. And I think Francois has mentioned it before. I mean, one of the, let's say, key targets of CATALYSE also is get into innovations into practical life. I think this is what you stated before, Francois, and I think this is one example how we could accelerate this process. So biosolutions should not get squeezed into regulatory categories that finally have been designed for fossil-based substances or for additives long time ago. And I would like to close my speech with a reference to this wonderful book here. I hope you can see it, which was recently published and unfortunately yet only available in German language, but I know that they are working on an English translation. And this book provides a wonderful and comprehensive overview of this extensive range of topics. The title is Revolution aus dem Mikrokosmos, so Revolution from the Microcosmos, Sustainable Food by Fermentation. And the author, Martin Reich, he holds a PhD in biology, and he clearly sees the European Union's regulatory framework as one of the main barriers to unleash the full innovation potential of biosolutions. And let me share just one quote that he's giving. He says that approval procedures that primarily act as a barrier or even as a hindrance do not support a holistic precaution approach. We rather need to find the right balance between a proportionate assessment of both risks and benefits that enables innovation and that doesn't kill it. And I must say, I couldn't summarize it better, to be honest. I think we need innovation promoting regulatory frameworks that will help bringing the full power of innovation, the full power of biosolutions to the European market. And if we want to catalyze scientific innovation into food safety action, and this is what is all about today, then we need regulatory frameworks which support their market ramp up. Then we need regulatory frameworks which avoid innovation inhibiting regulations and which avoid disproportionate bureaucracy. And then we need regulatory frameworks which are based on a well-balanced, proportionate assessment of risks and benefits. Yeah, the time for biosolutions is now. That was the title of my presentation. And also with the global challenges ahead of us, I think we simply cannot afford to miss out on these options. Thanks a lot for your attendance.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much. We are open to a Q&A session.
Yes.
If anybody who has questions can raise their hands and can unmute their mics as well, you can directly talk to Michael and we can have a conversation as well. We have Edward writing on the chat as well. Yeah. Edward, would you like to speak with Michael?
Don't be shy, Edward.
Yes, yeah, I was changing my settings. Yeah, so thank you very much for an interesting presentation. And I think I can agree with the labeling of the cultures as you described it. Yeah. But some of the protective cultures, they produce antimicrobials. And when you would use them directly, then I think we agree that these are additives when you put them in the product as such. But when the protective cultures produce them, and the cultures are labeled as cultures, then consumers are not aware of the presence of these antimicrobials. So that is my question to you. How do you see this? Because this is a bit of a related aspect, but it could be relevant.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Edward. I think what you address here is very much about the nature of fermentation. I mean, coming back to this example here, yeah, this nice little culture that we're using since decades in salami, which is covered by the General Food Law. By the way, this is one of the strains that is also able to produce a bactericide, a little peptide that is quite active versus Listeria monocytogenes. This is one method that is built by this strain. We have a long history of safe use about this strain and with this metabolite. And what you refer to linked to these bactericides, of course, we could also relate it to the formation of any metabolite that is built during such a fermentation process, whether this is a lactic acid, whether this is any enzymes, protease, lipases. I mean, that is the nature of fermentation, and that is what is happening in an uncontrolled way, and we can have a long discussion about that, and the time won't cover this today, of course. But I'm very welcome to step deeper into that discussion with you at another occasion. The nature of fermentation is that food cultures, they produce enzymes, they produce metabolites, and by that transform the food, but also protect the food, and that has been used and done since ancient times, right? This is not our invention. This happens if we want it or not. The only difference is if we add a culture, we are now able to control this much better and to standardize this, and by that, of course, as I mentioned before, reduce food waste, increase food safety, and address this in a targeted manner. So we can provide this in a standardized way under controlled conditions. And that's the only difference compared to what my grandfather did. He was also a butcher, right? And he was producing his salami without starter cultures. But what is also true that in out of 10 times, 9 times, 8 times, everything went well. But there was one time where the color deviation or the color was not as it should be. There was some taste deviations, and sometimes some people got a bad stomach after it. I mean, that is what happened 50 years ago, right? And now we are further here, and I think we should realize that and also consider that.
I think these two reasons you gave, let's say the long history of safe use and the fact that you're much better able to control the conditions, I think those are really convincing. Yeah, thank you.
And maybe just to add one third point, it is the strains that we use here. I mean, most of these isolates, 95%, we have from these foods because they are dominant in these food matrices. Else they would not work, right? So it is. They are part of the natural microbial ecosystem of the foods where we apply them. That's where we find them, right? And so it's it's a characteristic food ingredient in that sense, I would say, right?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. If we have more questions, please feel free to put it on the chat. And I hope Michael could answer them during the webinar itself. Moving on to the next presentation. I will again share my screen. Well, our next speaker is Dr. Solveig Langsrud, a senior scientist in the Department of Food Safety and Quality at Nofima, Norway. She has led several research projects within the area of microbiology and food safety, often in collaboration with the food industry. The last year, she has coordinated European research and innovation projects aiming to reduce foodborne illness and food waste. Her primary research interest has been how microorganisms in food processing environments survive and affect food safety and quality, and how the food industry can combat them. Today, she is going to speak with us about how can the food industry benefit from whole genome sequencing in their daily work. I give the floor to Solveig. You are mute at the moment. Yes, perfect.
Share my screen. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, do you see my presentation now? Yeah, good.
Yes.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about this topic. Whole genome sequencing is mostly used in research and also by food authorities for outbreak investigations. But as a research institute trying to help the industry, we were curious about how can it be used by the food industry to improve safety. So we have had a couple of projects on that in Norway, so I will present some results from those. And the case study was Listeria. It's the most deadly foodborne pathogen in Europe. And in addition to the health burden, it is also a burden for the industry. It's recalls, but maybe primarily all the work the food industry is doing to prevent Listeria through monitoring and through cleaning and disinfection and all general hygiene. And what's the problem? Using the Listeria chain of contamination and infection in Norway as an example, we can just go out of our door and find Listeria everywhere. I think when we sample in the nature, we find Listeria in 10 to 20% of the samples. And Listeria can be, by their genetic relationship, separated into different clusters, and we find many different clusters, but some are dominating. When we go and sample in the food industry, it's other clusters of Listeria that dominate, maybe with the exception of cluster 7. We have other types of Listeria, and research has shown that these Listeria that we find in food industry, they have adapted to live and settle down in food processing machines, drains, floors, and so on. And further down the food chain, when we go to the small proportion of people eating Listeria every day that get listeriosis, we have some common clusters as what we find in the food industry, maybe with the exception of CC9. I think it's because CC9 is primarily in meat, and meat in Norway have preservatives or daily meats. So maybe it's stopped in the refrigerator, I don't know. But nevertheless, it's not like all the Listeria that we are surrounded by in the nature that people get ill from. It's those that settle down in the food industry. We have asked, we have a project now on cleaning and disinfection, and we asked food factories around the world about, have you ever found Listeria in the food production environment? And it's yeah, almost 40% that has found it detected twice in a row or more in the same sampling point, or repeatedly in the same sampling point, a drain or a machine or something, for over 3 months. So it's not uncommon for the food industry that Listeria live in their food production environment. And we suspect this and underreporting here, because we found a relation between how factories sample their environment and if they found Listeria. Those using only a small Q-tips, they don't find Listeria in their food production environments. So the recommended strategy to cope with Listeria is to do a lot of monitoring of primarily the food processing environment in addition to the raw materials. And if we find Listeria, you have to extend the sampling, and you have to work down to maybe a very small area to find the niche where Listeria is living. And I guess in most cases, it's enough to just find positive and negative. Do we have Listeria here or not? But also in many cases, the factories need some more information to identify, for example, the supplier or to effectively find the source of Listeria on their products. It may also be a requirement from customers that the food industry do some sequencing or typing of Listeria to document that they are not supplying their customers with Listeria. And why use whole genome sequencing? Is a lot of other methods, but it's two questions that I think it can ask. You can answer faster and cheaper than using traditional methods. One is that it's saying very easily something about the properties of Listeria. It can tell if it's very virulent or not, if it's very prone to produce biofilms or not, or if it has other persistence factors quite easily. And also it says something about relationship between strains. So if a factory have several Listeria strains from their environment, it is a difference if all of them are almost equal, or if there is a lot of different types of Listeria. It will say something if you have a persistent strain, or if you get new strains into the property all the time, for example. So that's some arguments for using it. So what can it be used to tell about the risk when you find a Listeria, for example, in a drain or on a machine? You could look for virulence genes. It's very much discussed that Listeria primarily make very old or sick people ill of listeriosis, the vulnerable consumers. And much less talk about that is the same magnitude of difference between those Listeria that are hypovirulent, that have a low virulence, and those are hypervirulent. So it's much more risky to kind of contaminate foods with a hypervirulent strain. And that information you can get from whole genome sequencing. Also, why is it so important to know if a strain have persistent genes? That is because I guess you can just multiply the risk if you have just a sporadic strain coming from the raw materials then into the food, and it's one batch that is contaminated, or if you have it day after day after day and contaminate every batch of food. So that's also very important to know when you get something in. Is this something that should be really worried about, or will it disappear? The third thing is that by looking at relationship between, your factory's Listeria and clinical strains, it's possible to see if you actually maybe causing an outbreak. So if those sequences from outbreaks is available, it's possible to relate your own strains to those strains. So for the risk analysis or risk assessment for factories, I think whole genome sequencing is a good tool. And I will also give some example about how it can be used to tell about the sources of Listeria. And it was interesting in the Mentimeter session that the monitoring and identification of sources came up as very important. This is from, I think, our first publication on this, where we sequenced our Listeria strains belonging to sequence type 8 and compared them. And it is a kind of family tree. And on the top, we then found, compared with the one strain we had in the freezer from earlier and a new strain. And we found it was a 10-year persistence of the same Listeria in a factory. So it can really stay there for long. We also had 2 strains from the same equipment, one from a factory that has sold some used equipment to another one, and the other one that suddenly got a Listeria problem. And then they could document that where they got this strain from, that it was actually from this other factory. This is another example. It's a salmon factory that has, and all these strains are from the same factory, different types. But suddenly, I guess if you didn't know anything of the types, you can think that everything was just spreading around. But using this whole genome sequencing, they discovered that in May 2019, they got ST121. And and it was not similar to another ST121 that they had, but they suspected that they got this from a well boat. So they were very lucky that it was possible to get and isolate from the well boat. And yes, it was very similar to those strains that spread from one machine to another one and along the processing line. So they knew who to blame. And this well boat is delivering to a lot of different salmon companies. So it's not unlikely that also other salmon factories got the same problem, because ST121 is very, very adapted to live in food processing environments. And I guess this is a bit complex, but just an example that it's also possible to see within a factory how Listeria is spreading around. For example, if you have one strain that is present in the raw cutting room, the green ones, and then it suddenly appears in the processing of heat-treated products, you know that you have had a breakage of zones. So it can also be used to see that. So I haven't told everything that we found, but our main conclusions about benefits of barriers of whole genome sequences is that it's very good for looking at to find sources in the factory, spread within a factory, between factories, from environment to suppliers. But we need more data to get all these sequences into the context. What we have found so far is that about 50% of the strains that we find in Norway, they are so similar to strains in other factories, so that in an outbreak investigation, for example, you could easily point at the wrong factory as a supplier. So we need to know more about that. The factories say that it's a very good tool to explain, for example, to cleaners and others working in the production, how Listeria spread in the environment, because you get these maps of relation. but it's not a tool to use for daily monitoring. It's too expensive and it's too long time from sampling to get the answer. So we have some suggestions for how to deal with this, but it's not for daily monitoring so far if we don't get any new technologies. It could be a good tool for risk evaluation and prioritization if you know more about virulence, persistence, possible link to clinical cases. But I think, at least in Europe, not in the US, but the whole genome sequence data from clinical cases is not published. So it's not so easy to check that. And the companies ask us when we present our data on all these genes for resistance and biofilm, they ask, so what? So what can we do about it? We know that we have some strains that is really, really difficult to get rid of, but it's still no cleaning and disinfection agents that are much, much more effective. And also, yeah, in Norway, but I think in whole Europe is my impression, is that the industry, they don't trust that the authorities have the competence to understand whole genome sequence data. So they are a bit reluctant to start to use the technology because it can be used against them. They're afraid of that. So the first ones that are the clever ones will get the blame if something happens. So that's the last point. We have a recommendation from our work that was initially made for the Norwegian food industry, but we have translated it and adapted it for others. So it's possible to read more about this. And that's all. Thank you. And thank you to our collaborators in Oslo and Veterinary University in Vienna, and industry partners and technology providers and everyone that is a part of the project.
Thank you. Thank you so much. If somebody has a question, a quick one, we're open to that. Otherwise, please feel free to write on the chat as well, and we can move ahead. I don't see hands raising up, so I will move ahead with the presentation. Thank you so much, Solveig, for your introduction. And we can go ahead with the next presenter. Our next speaker is Dr. Jacques-Antoine. He has a PhD in food microbiology. He works at the French Agency for Food, Occupational Health and Safety as Deputy Scientific Director since December 2020. In parallel, he manages the staphylococci, bacillus, and clostridium unit in this laboratory since January 2014. He is the Director of the European Union Reference Laboratory for coagulase positive staphylococci and Deputy Head of the National Reference Laboratory for CPS. He took part in standardization activities as project leader for the development of the EN ISO 1920 under the CEN M381 mandate, was the chairman of the ISO TC34 SC9 since 2018 to 2020, and is currently the project leader for the ISO PW1 161409 validation of alternative methods for the performance of bacterial toxins and biogenic amines in food under the ISO TC31 SC9 WG3 responsibility. Finally, he is involved in French and EU projects as participant or coordinator to develop, transfer, and promote tools to characterize bacterial toxins. He is also a proud member of CATALYSE Consortium on behalf of ANSES. Today, he is going to speak with us about how European Union Reference Laboratories for Listeria monocytogenes and coagulase positive staphylococci contribute to food safety. I give the floor to you.
Thank you, Ruchi, for this kind introduction. So I will try to share my screen. This one, okay. Full screen mode, that would be better. Do you see it? Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Perfect.
So as you first of all, thanks a lot to give me the opportunity to present our task as EURL for European Reference Laboratory for two different pathogens mentioned in the European regulation, Listeria, monocytogenes, and coagulase positive staphylococci. And as Ruchi asked about the skills and competence we need for food safety, some of you previously answered that regulation is important. Of course, I fully agree, even if it's not the most funny part of our job, but we have to deal with it. And on this first part, I would like just to give you a short background about the food law, so the European Commission Regulation 178/2002, the Regulation AA2 2004, the food microbiological criteria, so the 2073/2005, and of course with the associated EN ISO standards. So regarding the food law, all of you know this one by heart. Okay, it's the Regulation 178/2002, laying down the principle of the food law, establishing the European Food Safety Authority, and in our case, the EURL network. So now I will present you what are the duties of European Reference Laboratory and what are the task of a national reference laboratory. But before that, I would just give you a clear and a quick overview of the microbiological criteria for foodstuff. So as you know, there are two different criteria in the regulation, one dealing with process hygiene criteria such as CPS, for example, okay, and the other one is the food safety criteria such as staphylococcal enterotoxins or Listeria monocytogenes. And you have to ensure that the food you put on the market is clean and proper for human consumption. So you have to make some analysis in order to check if this food is not hazardous for the consumers. So for each food category in this food microbiological regulation, you have the microorganism for which you focus on. You have the sampling plan. You have the limit to be tested, the analytical reference method to be used, and we will speak about it after, especially because we will focus on EN ISO standards, and the stage at which the criteria applies. And of course, the action in case of unsatisfactory results. So you have to clean, or you have to withdraw your product from the market or something like that. So that's the example for coagulase positive staphylococci. So you can see that's the food hygiene criteria. So you've got the bacteria, so the microbiological of that. You have the maximum value, okay, and you have the standard you must use to detect this pathogenic agent. So in the case of coagulase positive staphylococci, sorry, it's the EN ISO 6888 part 1 or 2. And you, as previously mentioned, you have the time where you have to test the presence of CPS. If you reach this value, 10 to the 5th colony-forming unit per gram, then you have to switch and you have to test the presence of the food safety criteria, which is the presence of staphylococcal enterotoxins. And because it's a food safety criteria, the criteria is not detected in a 25-gram test version. And for this, you have to use the EN ISO 19020. So that's the example. Regarding now the task of European Reference Laboratory. So as EURL, we have to develop and validate analytical methods targeting microbiological criteria according to international standard. So on this slide, you can see the different committees, working group in which we are present as EURL for Listeria or EURL for coagulase positive staphylococci. So we are present at the French level, at the EU level, in the CNTC 463 as European Commission representative, and in this CEN committee, we developed, as Rishi said before, 2 standards. The standard focusing on staphylococcal enterotoxin and food, the EN ISO 19020, and the standard dealing with Listeria monocytogenes detection, the EN ISO 11190. And we are also present at the ISO level, so in the SC9, in different working groups in which we are project leader, expert, or convener. The idea is clearly to be clearly and actively involved in a standardization process, to be aware of what happened, and to share all this knowledge to our networks. So we develop and validate analytical methods against the hazards we covered according to international standards. We provide national reference laboratory, details of these analytical methods. We train this national reference lab, and we coordinate these ones, organizing proficiency testing trial, how to develop or apply new methods, what are the main information they need to implement new methods. We also perform confirmatory analysis in case of efficient control, foodborne outbreaks, in case also in dispute between member states. And of course, we also have to provide a scientific and technical assistance to the Commission, especially when there are large foodborne outbreaks in different member states. And that was the case for Listeria monocytogenes in corns a few years ago now, where we managed the characterization of the food poisoning outbreaks. And of course, we also have to collaborate with official laboratories coming from third countries. In other words, we have to share all the things we do to our networks. And that's very important because we are paid by the European Commission. Okay, so it's important to share all the knowledge we develop in all the member states. Regarding now the task of National Reference Lab, okay, so each member state must designate one at least National Reference Lab for each European Reference Laboratory. This National Reference Lab have to collaborate with their respective EURL. They have to coordinate for their area of competency the activity of the official laboratory they manage at a local level. And they also have to provide scientific and technical assistance to their competent authorities. And if there is more than one national reference lab in a member state, they have to ensure coordination between these different national reference labs. The prerequisite to be nominated as NRL or EURL is clearly to be accredited according to the ISO 17025, because we have to provide to competent authorities reliable results. These results are used by competent authorities to take action. So they need reliable results. And regarding the scope of accreditation, all the methods used by laboratory acting as an official laboratory must be accredited under a fixed or flexible scope. Sometimes you can have some possible permanent or temporary derogation, depending the risk or the hazard covered. But in our case of coagulase positive staphylococci, staphylococcal enterotoxin, and Listeria monocytogenes, we need to be accredited for all the methods we we have in the laboratory. So the one new thing is how to perform official control. So you previously saw that there is in the regulation you have the microorganism to be target with a criteria and an associated method, and this one is generally an EN ISO standard. But 2 weeks ago, the European Commission offers the possibility to all member states to use EN ISO 16140 Part 2, covering validated alternative methods, but these methods must be certified by the third-party body. Usually in Europe, it's Microval or AFNOR. So with this possibility, you can use proprietary methods in official control analysis. Before that, you have to use the standard. Now you can use, if this method is fully validated and fully certified, you can use a proprietary method, which is important. In our case, as EURL, we have to organize a proficiency testing trial every year for each topic covered by the regulation one. So for staphylococcal enterotoxins and for coagulase positive staphylococci, focusing on the methods mentioned in the regulation. Next year, we will organize a PT scheme, and we have to evaluate national reference lab on all the methods they used in official controls, including these new ones. Okay, so that was a short background at the beginning. So what do we do in the real life now? So we try to do all the things mentioned before. So we manage our networks by organizing once a year workshop in order to recover their needs, to explain what we did. We organize upon request training session to be sure that member states are competent when applying EU regulation, especially on new topics such as measurement uncertainty, for example, because it's a new standard. We have to verify the competency of this national reference lab by organizing PT trials. We provide relevant documents, so standard operating protocols, quality assurance tips, and also reagents. So we can provide strains, DNA, food sample, certified or not reference material, which is very important for a national reference lab. And we also develop methods thanks to our involvement in standardization activities. And because we are EURL, we also offer support to European Commission by performing in-depth characterization of food poisoning of EU member states. And for Listeria monocytogenes, we also take part in the data analysis of the foodborne outbreaks due to these pathogens, and we take part in the redaction of the zoonosis report every year. Some example about the EURL for CPS. So we can work on own check, staphylococcal food poisoning outbreak, official controls, and you will see in the green boxes. So for CPS and staphylococcal enterotoxin, though these two ones are covered by the EU regulation, it's green because it's under more or less, I would say, under control. But for staphylococcal enterotoxins, for example, currently we are only able to detect 5 of them among the 33 available in the literature. So we have a lot of work to do. And that's why we develop new methods based on both ELISA or mass spectrometry, focusing on this new hazards. And that's important because we can directly skip to mass spectrometry or WGS, as mentioned before. But we have to take care of all the labs because not all of them can easily access to WGS or mass spectrometry. And that's why we clearly must work for all of them at the EU level, but also at the international level. And when we draft standard, we clearly take care of this point because in some region in the world, it's not possible to have a network to have data coming from WGS or to have robust pipelines to analyze genomes or something like that. So we have to cover all type of methods, the old one and the more recent one. And the idea is clearly to have a type of toolbox with complementary tools coming from bacteria to toxins, in our case, in order to explain as much as possible why the staphylococcal food poisoning outbreaks occurred. On this slide, you have some example. So, as I told you before, we have to share, we have to publish in open access because we received money from the European Commission. So that could be on the development of new methods such as mass spectrometry, ELISA-based method. That could be epidemiology and comparison of different methods for typing, MLST, PFG, WGS. That could be the result of PT trials, or because we are here also to help National Reference Lab to clearly characterize food poisoning events, we take part in the characterization of these outbreaks with our European colleagues in Italy or in other EU countries. So regarding now European Reference Laboratory for Listeria monocytogenes, well, so we spoke about WGS. Okay, WGS is a wonderful technique, but it's a little bit costly. It's difficult to have dedicated pipelines to make big data analysis. So the idea was to access to clonal complex in 48 hours without sequencing for direct detection in food samples. And that's what the EURL for Listeria monocytogenes did 2 years ago now. So they developed a high throughput real-time PCR for the 30 major circulating clonal complex of Listeria monocytogenes in Europe. And they developed discriminant, quick, cost-effective, accessible methods that can be used for surveillance, outbreak investigation, and that can also help to understand strain circulation and contaminating routes and vehicles. And last but not least, we spoke about hazard, about detection method, and so on. But for Listeria monocytogenes, there is also another challenge, which is how to perform sampling and how to perform sampling plans after cleaning and disinfection procedure. So the EURL for LM drafted and released 1 year ago now, the version 4 of technical guidance documents, and this one is freely available on the website mentioned on this slide. And that's all for me. If you have any questions, please feel free.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think we do have a question on the chat from Paula. Paula, would you like to?
I don't know if I was on time or if
It's okay.
more or less. Okay.
Hi. Thanks for your interesting presentation. This is a side question. I'm a bit unsure what will happen with this new amendment on Listeria monocytogenes microbiological criteria. I just wanted to have your opinion on this, if possible, if you have an opinion.
About what type of I'm clearly work on coagulase positive staphylococci and staphylococcal enterotoxin. But about what type of amendment do you?
Yeah, there will be an amendment related with the point of control. But okay, if you are not, this is something
No. You can contact Corinne Danon from the with the leader of the EURL for Listeria monocytogenes if you have any question, because I don't want to say incorrect things, I would say.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry.
Well, thank you very much. I will be moving ahead due to time restrictions, of course. We will, if you have any questions, please feel free to put it on the chat. Moving on to our next speaker is Wilfried Paget, European Project Manager from ACTIA, France, representing E-Safefood project as the project coordinator. The E-Safefood has developed an interactive and free online training program about microbiological food risk, which will have a strong practical approach and will be certified at the European level. Supported by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union, it is coordinated by ACTIA and runs from January 2022 to November 2024. Through its tools and activities, E-Safefood will ensure a better knowledge of microbiological hazards and a better control of microbiological quality of food products. I would like to give the floor to Wilfried, who will bring us an insight on the working model of this project.
Hi, Rish.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We can't hear you.
I'm very sorry, my presentation now.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I'm sharing your presentation at the moment.
Okay. Thank you. That's fantastic. I'm not sure if you can hear me. Let me know if you can't. So, thank you so much for the introduction. The presentation is about the E-Safefood project. The E-Safefood has the objective of developing a comprehensive e-training program on microbial safety in food chains for current and future professionals. It's co-financed by project, is running, so it started in January 2022 and will end in November this year. So if you go to the next slide, this is the next slide is about the partnership. The project is coordinated by ACTIA, the French Network of Food Technology Institutes, that I represent today. And there are two of the instrumental based in Brussels and the Polytechnic Institute of Rotterdam. The next slide will introduce you to as we said, we intend to develop an interactive and online platform, the tailored pedagogical material about microbiological food safety. This is directed to three main, with researchers within the agri-food sector, and agri-food professionals such as and cooperative workforce. This is mainly within the agri-food industries for managers of quality, R&D, and also all technical related professionals in industry. So the training program, as you can see on the right side, this is an extract from the platform, online platform from the Iseki Moodle. The 4 modules listed in green. So you have microbial shelf life, process validation, and control of microbial analysis will be available soon, probably next month. We are finalizing now the content advanced, but these different levels are not applicable for all modules. Only microbial shelf life has the process validation and risk learners. On the next slide, we explain you that for the basic level, we have developed the translation of the content in French, Spanish, and Portuguese, whereas the content for intermediate and advanced is only in English. But we want to also target people, local people from which who are the partners who have developed the content are this from these companies in these countries. And another important point is that after each module, you have the opportunity to get a certificate of completion. So this means that after each level, there is a quiz to evaluate students about their knowledge. And if you succeed, which means if you have at least 80% of the test positive, you will receive that is you can see the sample of the design with your level and the module with the so it will be a stamp stamp of ACTIA and E-Safefood is the logo EU under the program of the Erasmus. On the next slide, this is about the activities that have been happening within the E-Safefood project. So we, as I said, we will release soon the last module about risk analysis. This will be live in September on the platform of November. Just a webinar on the control of microbial hazards module, which have been just live now this month. So if you are interested, please follow us on our social media, LinkedIn and Facebook. We can send the presentation with the link, but you can also have all information from our website and go. There is a link to every social media, and if you follow us, you will be able to register for the next webinars. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about this platform. And if you have any question, please feel free to contact me.
Thank you. Thank you, Wilfried. Thank you so much.
No, I think I had only 5 minutes, so.
Yes. We could not hear you properly, but we did catch a bit of your idea. Thank you so much for the presentation. If you have questions, please feel free to contact Wilfried from ACTIA. We will be moving on with the presentation from here on, and we are on the last session of our presentation, and it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Diana Fonseca. Diana holds a PhD in biomedical engineering and brings over 5 years of experience in biotechnological field. She is representing UCP, a partner of CATALYSE. They are responsible for development of community of practice platform and helping us to build the CATALYSE project to survive even after the end of the project. Diana leads the CATALYSE project on behalf of UCP under the guidance of Professor Paula and Professor Shao at the same moment. Today, Diana will introduce the community of practice and discuss its potential to support your expectations and needs. Please join me in welcoming Diana Fonseca. We have the floor to you, Diana.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind presentation. I will share my screen. Okay. So hello, everyone. Thank you for the kind introduction and opportunity to present the concept of CATALYSE Community of Practice. Today, we have heard a lot of times community of practice, but what exactly is it? So, to better understand what is it, first of all, we need to define a community of practice, or a COP. COP are groups of people who share a concern or a passion for something they do and learn how to do it better as they interact regularly. So, they share a concern or a passion, in our case, food safety and food safety innovations. Learn how to do it better is the practice, and interact regularly is what we intend with the community. So within this community, we want to have a collaboration to learn, to exchange experience and improve the member skills. So it is really important to give voice to the stakeholders and the members of the COP. We need to understand what you want, what you need, what innovations you have to share, and if you are satisfied with our community of practice, or you'd like to change something about it. So what we idealize as the CATALYSE COP. We intend to have a forefront platform that unifies the network solutions, the knowledge and resources sharing, and innovation uptake. And we also intend to offer training and events to improve food safety from the farm to the fork. So, by becoming a member of the CATALYSE COP is a way to have all food safety updates in one online consolidated place. And at this moment, we are planning our COP, and we want to consider your opinion and what your needs are to fit our community of practice properly. So I will present our idea, and I will share some questions with you using Mentimeter, so keep your phone handy. And I hope that you help us to understand your needs in this. So, our community of practice will start with a welcome message that introduces to CATALYSE COP and talk about food safety. Then we will have the news sections designed to provide monthly updates, displaying news from the previous month. This keeps the content fresh and relevant for users. And then we will have the innovations section dedicated to showcasing new and innovative developments, startups, and solutions. This section highlights the advancements and creative solutions in the field. And here we have the first question. So, having this in consideration, we want to know, what are you looking forward to in the innovation section? So, what you want to have in the innovation section? what you think is relevant for you to have it. Please share your thoughts. There are no wrong questions. You think that emergence technologies and their impacts would be beneficial to you? Case studies, workshops, collaborations, opportunities. Okay, we are having some responses. Guidelines, new methods for detection of foodborne. Yeah. It would be interesting for you have, for instance, let's say fact sheets in there. That's about it. New tools, okay. Yeah, innovations that can be brought to the market, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your insights. It is really interesting to see what you intend for this part. And then we have a resource library. This will be a repository of scientific papers, reports, fact sheets, best practice to share, something like that. And again, these are our ideas, but we want to hear from you. What are you looking forward in this repository? What are your needs? Think in what you need in your daily work life. When you are looking for something about food safety, what could be really interesting to have in one consolidated place? So publications, these are some ideas. Case studies, guides, tutorials. Yeah, that's a really good question, point. The resume about the new publications. Do you think the resume will be better than put the publication itself? Yeah. Practical solutions, okay. Guides to the industry. Scientific paper, okay. White papers. It's regulations, yeah. Academic and industry, okay. High quality education. Okay, this gives us the point for the next, the other part of our COP. We will have a chapter, a part dedicated to educational resources only. So we are intending to have education materials, some videos that you can apply to know more about the topic, or to show to other people and explain some point that you need. We intend to have this. And we want to understand what format would be most effective for you to have these educational resources and these training programs. So we have 6 options, and I would like you to rank the first is what you prefer most, the last is what you prefer less. And we have the options of virtual or physical symposia in classroom, hands-on courses, applied training sessions, self-learning courses, webinars, and on-site sessions. So from this, please rank what are the options that you prefer. Okay. We have some answers. So for now, applied training sessions is winning, followed by self-learning. Okay. This is really important for us to focus on our educational resources and do it to better correspond your expectations. Okay, okay. Only a few seconds.
Strange.
Yes, it's always. Okay, thank you for your input. And this is our informative part of COP. So with this, we want to show you and share with you what we have in the literature and what kind of resources we want to share with you. But as I mentioned in the beginning, the community is about contact with the others and meet the others. So we are also planning a more interactive part. And this part includes a blog where we will share expert opinion articles or expert interviews. And you can say, I would like to have an opinion article from this expert, and we can try to have it. And also have a share space where you can share your announcements, the webinars you are organizing, job opportunities, everything you want, and also share your ongoing project, partnerships, opportunities, and collaborations with other members. And we also promote other events such as webinars like these, workshops, and other events that can be relevant for the community of practice itself. So having this in mind, I would like to let you choose the three options that for you are the most important to interact with the community of practice. In this way, we will try to do our interaction based on this. So would you prefer regular meetings and discussion, newsletter or email updates, online forums, discussion boards, knowledge sharing? This can be by presentations, workshops, peer mentorship, coaching, sharing resources and best practice, asynchronous learning, such as webinars, courses, recordings. So for you, which of these are the three most? We also have networking events. You can choose up to three options, and this will be really interesting for us to plan the next activities and activities of our DOP. So for now, newsletters or email updatings are winning, followed by knowledge sharing, presentations, yes. Regular meetings and discussions, okay. Okay, so newsletter and emails updates are really important, followed by knowledge sharing and with presentations and workshops. Okay. Thank you for your feedback. And now we want to understand how often should our community of practice organize meetings or activities? So you think that every month, once every quarter, every 6 months, once a year? What? Sorry, I have to start meter. So for you, what is the best schedule to organize these meetings? These meetings, its activities, it can be meetings itself, workshops, webinars. Okay. Like once every 6 months and once every quarter are winning. Yeah, for us, it is the options that make also more sense, but again, we need your feedback, and we want to understand what are your thoughts about it. Thank you. So then I will show you the chapters. Our COPs will also be divided in chapters that will have more specific topics about food safety. And we will have at least 6 chapters. And in it, when you come in each chapter, it will appear new information. So our organization, what we are thinking? We are thinking you have the initial page where we explain the chapter itself and the theme that we are talking about. Then we can subdivide in topics if needed. And these topics go to the information that we have in the repository, but in here is more specific for the topic. We will have the interactive part, the blog or forum, again, with expert opinion articles and or expert interviews, but dedicated to the team, and a share space where you can share everything you want, with moderation, of course, about this team. We will have another option that will act as a forum where you can ask your questions, your doubts, and an expert can answer, or other member that know the answers also can have answers. And in this way, we want to promote the discussion. And in here, we are thinking in have regular meetings as well, but dedicated to these the specific topics and not only to the food safety in general. So I would like to know if this chapter structure corresponds to your expectations, and if not, what would you like to, what would you change or suggest? You can send it by chat if you have suggestions, or for me by email. We also have some our social media of the project, so you can also share that. You think that this structure is clear enough? You would like to have more things in chapters, or we would like to know what people are suggesting or would like to change, who are saying no, because your feedback is really important for us in this part of the project we are organizing. And if you have some ideas, something that you would like to see in this part, please share with us. It can be in chat, or if you prefer, my email will be in the last slide of the presentation. But please let us know, because we want really to fulfill your needs and your expectations in this part. And thank you for your feedback, of course. And the last question is if the overall community of practice meet your expectation and interests. So everything that I share, if fulfill your needs. And again, if you have suggestions, I would like to know. All of us would like to know. And if you want some topic in the community of practice and so on, yeah, we can adapt it for a chapter. So if you have ideas, please let us know. And if you think that we should have more parts dedicated to publications or case studies, let us know. Thank you for your feedback. And now it's the end of my presentation. I would like to thank you for your collaboration. And if you are interested in have updates of our COP, please pre-register with our QR code in here. And once again, if you have suggestions, please contact us. You have here my email. CATALYSE has the social media, and please let us know your thoughts about our COP. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy it.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you so much. Not to delay us anymore, we would like to thank all of you and your excellent support, especially Diana, for the dedication for CATALYSE and UCP. Coming closer to the end of the webinar, we would like to share some practical information on behalf of CATALYSE partners. We are available, as Francois already introduced, that we are available on LinkedIn, on Twitter X. We also have a project website, thecatalyseproject.eu. Please connect with us there, and we'll be happy to share more information to you. Very quickly giving you information on the next events. We are organizing the next webinar on the 16th of October, which will be the World Food Day, recognized by the FAO. We will also be present at physical events on Synergy Days Barcelona, at FOST International Conference in Belgium, at EURL Europe Annual Symposium in Denmark in the coming 2 months. We will be organizing one-on-one workshops, physical workshops where we try to understand the needs and priorities at the same moment. The final summary of the entire year's stakeholder engagement from today's work as well will be dedicated to a specific webinar in December, which we will be communicating to each one of you for you to join and recognize the analysis as well. The Community of Practice launches in July 2025, and which is going to be active even after the completion of the project, which means that you as stakeholders, everybody who joins as the Community of Practice in CATALYSE is going to be needed, is going to be a member, an active participant, the one who pushes forward the project in the future. Thank you very much again for your active participation today. If you really like the concept of today's webinar, we have an in-depth survey that is active only until the end of this month. Please feel free to scan this QR code and let us know your in-depth needs and priorities in the food safety criteria itself. We look forward for your collaboration on behalf of CATALYSE project partners. We wish you a good evening ahead. If you have any questions regarding our project, please do not hesitate to reach out to us, or any one of them are here on the screen. And wishing you a great evening and a great week ahead. Thank you very much.
Ciao.
Ciao. Thank you, Francois.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.